I fell over the other day and knocked my tooth out when I was hiking. I fell over, fell down a mountain, hit my head on a rock, and knocked my tooth out. So I fell over, and I don't know if you can really see this tooth. It's wobbly. It actually is fractured, and then this one is, I don't even know. That one is completely just broken. So what happened is I went to the first hospital and there was no dentist there, and there was no maxillofacial, if that's how you pronounce it. So they transferred me to another hospital, and in that hospital I had an X-ray. After a triage and seeing a doctor, I had an X-ray, and then I went to see the specialist consultant, and he looked at my teeth. What happened to the wobbly tooth is it got knocked out of place. So it was hanging down and it was behind this tooth. So he literally wobbled it and put it back into the right socket, but you could still see the crack across the tooth. So I went to bed that night and I didn't want to really eat anything because I was scared of knocking it. And I expected them to put a splint across it so it'd stay in place, but they didn't. Anyway, that evening I was really tired, so it stayed in place anyway, because I don't think I moved much in my sleep that evening, probably because of shock. And the next day I expected it to be still quite wobbly, but it was far less wobbly. I still couldn't eat on it, but I felt like it was much more secure. That the accident happened on Saturday, and I couldn't see a dentist until Monday. When I got back to my home city after the trip, I rung the emergency dentist. I didn't know if I'd be able to book an appointment or I'd be able to see someone else, but they just said sleep with my head upright and take ibuprofen and ring the dentist first thing in the morning. You'll probably also see that I cut my head from banging my head on the rock. I've got a bit of a bald patch there. So the advice from the dentist was take ibuprofen and paracetamol, and they said that in the hospital as well. Afterwards, however, I actually looked on the NHS website, and they said don't take ibuprofen because it can lead to bleeding after head injuries and it's quite dangerous. So a bit of miscommunication there. Anyway, yeah, so I felt fine. I went to work on Monday. It was a bit unfortunate. Then I had the dentist appointment first thing. I went to the dentist and I was in there for about 5 minutes. He basically said he couldn't do anything for a week. He wanted to just let the gum heal because he said it was a bit swollen and I had a massive cut on my lip. So he said let that heal. And then that evening I started to get a headache, and when I put my head down I felt like I was getting intense pressure. So people in work said go back to the hospital. So I went to the hospital in my city and actually got a CT scan. It came back fine, but it was a bit of reinsurance. So anyway, a week passed and it was just getting more and more sore. Like the gum and the top of the tooth was getting sore. It was getting a bit better at the bottom. Like if I did that, it was less painful and it felt less wobbly, but it felt a bit sore. But I just thought I'll hang on until I saw the dentist. Also, when I was in the hospital, they gave me some antibiotics. They were co-amoxiclav. These didn't agree with me at all, but I carried on taking them. And then I finished the course. Then I went back to the dentist, or the first thing on, I think it was a Tuesday, so like 10 days after I knocked my tooth out, and we had an X-ray. Did an X-ray on both teeth, and he said that this one can just be capped under the the NHS, and then he said that this one should be able to get a cap or a veneer, slightly different to the other tooth, but he said that there wasn't a crack in it. Anyway, he said I have to wait for another week and then I have to get a root canal on this because there's like trauma to the root. I get an infection in there, so I had to get a root canal. So I was like, fine, it's all covered under the NHS cost, which is like, they've got 3 bands. Band 1, which is basically checkups, x-rays, emergency appointments. Band 2, which is it's like simple things like extractions, fillings, and then band 3 is bridges, dentures, and root canals, anything a bit more technical. So it was all covered under that cost, and he just said come back in a week and we can book the root canal in, but it'll take a bit longer, so getting a bit longer appointment. Anyway, I carried on that week and I felt like the crack was getting bigger and bigger. When I first got it, it was literally like a hairline crack. I could feel it with my finger, but it wasn't that bad. But then it started to get more and more wobbly and more painful. So I found every day I was taking more and more painkillers, and I was improving my dental routine a lot. I was using so much mouthwash, it was unbelievable, and I was using loads of different toothpaste, 2 different toothbrushes. This one is a really soft one which is pretty much useless, but it was the only one I could use on that tooth. But I found that it was all, I couldn't really clean it that well, and I felt like it was getting infected. The pain was actually getting worse and worse, so a couple of times when I ate, I felt like the tooth was snapping back. So I rang the dentist before my appointment for the root canal, and under an emergency appointment, and he said come in and he'd have a look at it. So I went to the appointment and he basically said we can't save this tooth, it's just too far, so we need to get it extracted next week and then I get a denture in place. I'll see if I can show you a bit better. It's wobbly at the bottom, but the back of it's still intact. So unfortunately I have to get the front tooth taken out and then a temporary denture put in place. I don't know what that will look like, but I'll have to just see. Also, whilst I was at night, that was when the most of the pain occurred. I think it's because I am like almost pushing the tooth with my tongue in my sleep. So I got a mouth guard a few years ago. Sorry, it's a bit grim. And I wore this because another thing I kept doing is I kept accidentally biting my tooth in my sleep, which was unbelievably painful. I'd wake up. So I put the mouth guard on, and then that kept my teeth apart, and that helped. But it feels a little bit better now. The pain's gone. So also after my emergency appointment, I got another set of antibiotics. These are just amoxicillin. I'm still on this course now, and I think that has taken some of the pain away and some of the infection in the roots. But I think the infection is also where the crack is, and obviously this can't get to the crack because the root doesn't reach that far, and I can tell it's infected because the tooth itself just smells like it's infected, and I can't do anything about that. So another thing I've been doing is I bought breath spray. It's the only thing I can do, and I've got salt wash that I keep doing in work. It's just unfortunate, and I just have to wait until I get the tooth extracted. So in the dentist, he said I can have these dentures, which at my age I don't think I want to keep dentures all my life. And he gave me a few options. One of them was to get a bridge, which he quoted the cost at £1,500, and that would have to be private. Or I can get an implant, and he quoted £2,700. But I think that is my best option, because an implant is a single tooth where they screw a titanium rod into the bone and then stick a crown on the top of it. A bridge, they'd have to crown both teeth, and then that would hold a false tooth in between. But that's not the best situation, because this tooth here is perfectly healthy, and they'd have to crown that. They take a layer of the enamel off and stick a crown on, so it proves it's more difficult in the long run, because then you've got the upkeep of that crown as well. So an implant is standalone. I have actually looked on the internet, and the cheapest price I've seen is about 1,500. So unfortunately, I think I'll just go through that cost and see how it works out overall. I think you can tend to get a payment plan, so they'll give a monthly cost. So I think that's probably my best option, and I'll get this crowned on the NHS and then the tooth extracted on the NHS. So hopefully I won't have to pay that cost privately, but I'll still probably be looking at about £2,000 to get these two teeth fixed. I have been given lots of information with my options, but another thing I'm concerned about is the colour. My teeth, they're not very white. I will admit they're not the whitest teeth, but I don't know whether to try and get them whitened beforehand and then try and get the crown and the implant a lighter colour, and then try and see how white I can get them. But I'll just have to see how it goes. So I am getting my tooth extracted tomorrow, and I will see if I can film that, and I'll see how it goes, and then I'll try and let you see what my denture's like, in case anyone else is thinking of getting the denture as well. Just see if I can show you this tooth, if I can get it to focus. It's not very nice.